Welcome back to the channel, everybody. My name is Nathan ELEMENTofFROST, and we are back here yet again doing another episode review for last night's episode of The Walking Dead. This is Season 6, Episode 15, entitled East. Now, everybody, with this being said, there are spoilers, okay? So if you guys have not caught up to this episode of The Walking Dead, which is Episode 15 of Season 6, entitled East, do not watch this video. I mean, it goes without saying, you know what I mean? So if you're still watching, it's on you. You know what I mean? I'm letting you know. Don't hate me for it. All right. So we will be comparing and contrasting sometimes with the comic book as well. So if you guys don't want to hear comic book spoilers as well, you know, go ahead and leave. Now, I'm not going to be outright spoiling the comic book. So if you still want to stay, that's all right. But I might talk about it a little bit. I'm not going to be outright spoiling the storyline, though. I'm just going to be talking about some brief things that could happen and comparing with the episode and stuff like that. So. That's just to get out of the way, because there was somebody who it seemed to me like he got a little bit angry last week when I was talking about, Negan and stuff like that, and comparing it to the comic book. He got a little angry that I spoiled it for him, which I didn't spoil anything for him, you know what I mean? It was sort of common sense, but we weren't really, we're not going to get hung up on that. So anyway, Season 6, Episode 15, episode review, entitled East, okay? So let's just go ahead and get right into it. So the episode starts off with a car basically idling on the road, and this is actually something we see in a sneak peek and in the promo, stuff like that. We get to see a car on the road with like a spike going through it, and blood drips on the ground and stuff like that. A woman's voice orders a man to come out, and in my personal opinion, right off the bat, I knew that this was Carol's voice. It just sounded like Carol, and she ordered a man to come out, and the man screams. A gunshot rings out, and complete silence, basically. We don't know what happened. Did something happen to Carol? Did she get shot? Or did she shoot somebody? What happened? We honestly don't know. We will find out, but at this moment, we don't know, and then it basically cuts to the opening intro, the opening cinematic of The Walking Dead. So, first off, it was a really fast opening, you know what I mean? It was literally that little bloody montage of maybe like 30 seconds long, something like that, and then right to the intro. It was pretty quick. It was the quickest one we had in quite some time, I'll tell you that much. So, back in Alexandria now, we get to see, Carol before she actually leaves, you know what I mean? So this is obviously sort of like flashing back and stuff like that. We get to see Carol basically packing her bag in preparation for leaving Alexandria. She hides her bag when Tobin enters the room. He reminisces about Denise, whom he knew from the start of Alexandria. And Carol basically only pretends to listen, She actually drowned out his voice completely, and she was basically off in another world, and she just kept nodding her head, pretending that she was listening, and everything like that. So later that night, Carol slips out of the bedroom, out of the bedroom. As Tobin sleeps, she packs up her gear and walks out the door. The next morning now, Sasha and Rosita guard the gate. Carl examines one of the Savior's guns and pockets it. Now, I found this scene really, really cool. You know what I mean? When Carl did this with the Savior's gun, they obviously assaulted that, that relay station or satellite area. Whatever the hell that survivors camp on it, or the Saviors rather, their camp was. You know what I mean? They killed all the people in the sleep and stuff like that. Raided their guns and everything like that. They took some guns, and on this handgun that Carl was expecting, basically like looking at and stuff like that, right on the grip. There was what looked to me a baseball bat, and the baseball bat was covered in barbed wire on the grip of the handgun. Okay, so it was like etched into the wood. You know what I mean? And I'm obviously that signals that Negan is coming, but does that have any relevance to Carl? I wonder. You know what I mean? We gotta wonder these things. You know what I mean? They've done so many things different from the comic books, and they could really. Again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but this could be straight up signaling that Carl, might get killed off or something like that. Now, that hasn't happened in the comic book, so you guys can't call that a spoiler. You know what I mean? But I will say that Negan has a bat covered in barbed wire, and you guys can see it in the sneak peek and I guess promo, not sneak peek, for next week's episode. If you guys want to go watch that promo, he's already in it. We don't see his face or anything like that, but we see his jacket and we see his bat covered in barbed wire. That's Lucille, Okay, that's what he names his bat, is Lucille. Now, someone gets killed by it in their group, and, this could be signifying that it's going to be Carl. We honestly don't know, you know what I mean? Foreshadowing has been a very big thing in The Walking Dead. But so far, with this kill that's coming up, in my opinion, whoever it may be, we've seen a lot of foreshadowing. You know what I mean? I'm not going to go over the characters that have been foreshadowed or anything like that, just in case you guys want to avoid spoilers from the comic book and everything like that. But anything could happen at this point. There's been foreshadowing in previous episodes of Season 6 that you guys, I mean, if you caught on to it by yourself, that's fine. You know what I mean? You got it. But if not, the only thing I'm going to tell you is this is foreshadowing for Carl. Whether or not that actually is significant or is just hinting to the arrival of Negan, we don't know. You know what I mean? But that could be a very big possibility. You know what I mean? There's been tons of things done in the show that are different from the comic book. Like in the comic book, for example, Andrea is still alive. In the TV show, Andrea is dead as hell. You know what I mean? In the comic book, Carl is still alive. And for right now, he's still alive in the TV show. We don't know if he's going to die. You know what I mean? There's no spoilers there, so don't get him angry at me. Okay? I'm just predicting, if you will. But we'll leave predicting until my actual prediction video later this week on Thursday, which would be the 31st, the end of March. That is right, everybody. That's pretty cool. We get to make a prediction video on the end of March. Awesome. So, Glenn showers with Maggie now, noticing bruises on her abdomen and stuff like that. And, we get to see that she's sort of beaten up and everything like that. That could be leading into, what happens later in the episode. We'll get into that. Daryl mounts his motorcycle, clutching the dentist keychain that Denise found at the apothecary. You know what I mean? He sort of recovered that from her dead body, unfortunately, when she died last episode. And he's sort of been holding on to it. Abraham takes over Sasha's post at the gate. She smiles and hands him the scar. Rosita watches their exchange. You know what I mean? We could see a little tiny bit of jealousy maybe there. Now, it didn't outright come out, you know what I mean? So she might not be jealous at all. But we did see maybe like a look of like, he left me for you type of thing, if you will. You know what I mean? I'm trying to clear that up, if you will. Like I said, I don't think it was jealousy. I really don't think it was. I think she's sort of come to terms at it at this point. Or, stuff like that. But who knows? Who knows, honestly, what's going through her mind. Rick and Michonne now snuggle in bed. We actually seen this part in a sneak peek. So it's not at the very beginning of the episode, but it is sort of the beginning of a day and stuff like that. So, I mean, it signifies that basically they were doing this before shit hit the fan, if you will. And anyway, they snuggle in bed. Michonne gets dressed so that they can help Glenn and Maggie beef up security, stuff like that. That was after, obviously, the Apple scene. You guys can go check that out in my prediction video if you want me to, go over that or whatever. Go ahead. Go on my prediction video. Link will be in the description. She tells Rick that Maggie is worried about an attack. Rick assures her that they'll be able to handle the saviors. The world is ours, and we know how to take it. That's what he quotes. He declares that, basically. And I think that's a pretty significant quote, you know what I mean? The world is ours, and we know how to take it. Signifying that he doesn't really know what he's dealing with, in this new Negan threat. And I find that he's going to find out pretty quickly next episode. And I can't wait for it, man. Next episode's going to be 90 minutes long. The season finale of Season 6 of The Walking Dead. I'm so excited. We finally know what it's called, too, as well. It's called The Last Day on Earth. But anyway, we're not going to get into that right now. I was thinking it was going to be called Something to Fear. But that's most likely going to be the season premiere of Season 7. So, hopefully. Hopefully, right? I would like to see that title, Something to Fear, come up. I think that'd be pretty damn cool. Michonne now joins Maggie and Glenn outside where Maggie has collected a bin full of guns. Like a bin full of guns that she got from the armory. Maggie suggests that they create caches of guns throughout the community to guarantee that they'll have weapons in the event of attack. It's not too smart to leave them all in one armory, and, if that armory gets compromised, they don't have any weapons to defend themselves, you know what I mean? So they need to, spread out the guns throughout the entire community so that they have access to weapons, no matter where the saviors hit them. And that's a very, very smart idea. I really, really like that. So, other than that, like I said, we get to see Rosita's protest and everything like that. Daryl opens the front gate and leaves on his motorcycle. Where's Daryl going? We don't know. At this point, I still don't think anybody knows about Carol's disappearance yet, about her leaving the community. I don't think Daryl knows about it as well. Now, that's originally what I was expecting, Daryl to be going out for, was Carol leaving, him going out for her. But at this point, I don't think it was the case, because we haven't really get to see, anybody's reaction to her note that she left Tobin or anything like that. But we did see Daryl, open the front gate and leave on his motorcycle. Glenn and Michonne go after him, along with Rosita, who claims to know where he's hitting. And, they go off on their own and everything like that. Tobin shows Carol's farewell note to Rick. They convene with Sasha and Abraham at the gate and deduce that Carol took a car, basically, and snuck out when the guards changed shift. Rick and Morgan leave to find Carol. Morgan was the first one to just drop everything and get in a car and go after Carol, you know what I mean? He's developed a relationship with her, in my personal opinion, and obviously not an emotional relationship or anything like that, or a physical relationship or anything like that either. It's just a relationship in terms of, her not really wanting to kill anymore. You know what I mean? He gets that. He understands that. And he wants to help her. You know what I mean? He kind of recognizes, I done this to her. You know what I mean? I did this to her. I changed her view on life. And now I've got to go fix it. Now I got to go get her to join the community back and not be on her own. So Rick actually leaves with them and declares everybody else, tell Carl I'll be back. No one else leaves. We have to be ready for a fight. And we get to hear that in the promo. That's what I originally predicted on. Again, I originally thought that he was talking about, Daryl and everybody like that, which I think that he was, but we don't know why Daryl went out. You know what I mean? We still don't know why he did. It's not for Carol, because everybody just found out about Carol, leaving. So Daryl's going out for another reason. And him clutching that dentist keychain, I think, was, what really ignited him to go out and stuff like that. So, Rick and Morgan leave to find Carol. Carol drives down the road and runs into a truck full of armed men. More saviors. That is right, everybody. Who shoot out her tires. Carol steps out with her hands up. The men demand that she leads them back to Alexandria. Carol begs them to return home, just run, get out of here. And they don't comply, basically. You know what I mean? Carol's completely on her own. No backup behind her. It's just her against maybe 4 or 5, maybe even 6 men. And she begs them to return home. Please, don't do this. And they don't comply. You know what I mean? They were about to get out of the truck and they were about to do some shit. And she just opens fire with a gun that she has hidden in her coat sleeve. After the shootout now, she orders a surviving savior to come out from hiding. He grabs a knife and charges after her. And that's actually when we get to see that, Carol basically shove a, the spike. The spike that was from the car. It was a car outside of Alexandria originally. Would put spikes in it and everything like that to keep away walkers, and she just didn't bother taking the spikes out. So that's where we get to see the spikes come into play. We get to see her basically shove a spike into one of the saviors and, through his chest into his back and everything like that. And, we get to see her tank out basically a whole group of saviors on her own, man. With a gun that's hidden in her sleeve, a spike, and, the remains of some other guy. You know what I mean? We get to see this guy basically hiding behind the car. She demands that he comes out, and he does, charges her, and all we hear is a gunshot, and that's basically all we hear. That's the last time we hear from Carol in this episode, I will tell you that much. Alright, so Maggie stops by the pantry to eat lunch before beginning another shift. Need insists on taking Maggie's shift so that Maggie can rest and eat and everything like that. Rick and Morgan now follow Carol's tracks east, the opposite direction of the Savior's compound that Rick attacked, which is the satellites and stuff like that. So instead of hitting west, towards that, Carol decided to head east. You know what I mean? She didn't want to go back, and it actually has a good amount of significance. You know what I mean? She's sort of running away from that. She's running away from the killing and everything like that, and running towards, or trying to run towards something better. But unfortunately, in that direction, she also encountered saviors, and she also encountered the need to kill in order to survive. So I thought that was a very significant scene. I thought that was very significant to her character and everything like that, and to the world that they live in now. that no matter which direction you go, you're always going to have to come back to that decision. You either kill or you die. Okay? That's just my opinion. I thought that was very significant and very, very cool. And it's just that it's a shame. That's the world, you live in now. You know what I mean? It really, really is. So, other than that, we get to see, like I said, Rick and Morgan follow Carol's tracks east and everything like that. Rick asks why basically Morgan is, wanting to help to find Carol, whom he barely knows. Morgan insists that he basically knows more about Carol than Rick thinks. At the scene of the shootout, another injured savior staggers out of the truck and sees Rick and Morgan approaching. Rick and Morgan arrive at the scene. They discover Carol's car, but no sign of Carol. You know what I mean? She's gone. After we heard that gunshot, she's out of here. Uncertain basically whether she's alive or dead, they follow a trail of blood leading away from the road. The injured savior emerges from the hiding spot and grabs Carol's rosary beads from the ground and follows Rick and Morgan. Obviously, Rick and Morgan don't know that he's behind him and stuff like that, but we get to see him follow him into, some brush, into some weeds and stuff like that while they're looking for Carol. And that's what he's doing as well. He's following them, trying to find the bitch that killed his friends, basically, is what I assume was, going on. So, Rosita, Glenn, and Michonne now arrive at the spot where Dwight killed Denise. The train tracks and stuff like that. They find Daryl's motorcycle hidden underneath some branches, confirming Rosita's hunch that Daryl has come back, to kill Dwight and everything like that, get revenge and everything like that, to, get vengeance for Denise. And he feels responsible in a way. So yeah, that's, this is something we actually see in the promo. Rosita points in the direction that Dwight escaped, but wonders, if they shouldn't let Daryl basically go complete his mission. And this is actually where we get to see Glenn, say that Daryl's going to get himself killed. He doesn't know what he's doing, stuff like that. Rosita, Glenn, and Michonne catch up to Daryl in the woods. Glenn tries to stop Daryl from going after Dwight, but Daryl refuses to stand down, basically explaining that if he had killed Dwight in the burnt forest back in episode 6 of season 6, Denise would still be alive. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to help Dwight and, his 2 girlfriends or whatever, instead of trying to help them and bring them back to Alexandria, if he would have just killed them in the first place, Denise would still be alive. It all sort of comes back to him, and he knows that, you know what I mean? He realizes that, and he feels responsible, and he needs to take vengeance for Denise's death, and he has to prove to himself that, he can still, he can do that sort of thing, you know what I mean? He has to prove to himself and, sort of fix his mistake, if you will. He's trying to fix his mistake. Nothing's going to bring Denise back, but he has to do what he has to do. You know what I mean? So, Rosita decides to join Daryl, basically saying, I can't go back either. Glenn and Michonne reluctantly turn back, but before they reach the car, however, Dwight and the Saviors ambush and capture them. That is right. We get to see We get to see Glenn talking to, Michonne out in the woods and, basically saying, he's going to get himself killed, stuff like that. And we need to be back there. We need to be preparing. We get to see all that. And then Dwight arrives and, basically takes them hostage and stuff like that. So, Rick and Morgan now follow the blood trail. Morgan recalls that Rick banished Carol after she killed 2 of their people back at the prison. And he asks Rick, what would he do if it happened today? And Rick says that he would thank her. And instead of sending her away like he did back in season 4 at the prison, basically saying you're not allowed to kill, 2 of our own and everything like that. That's not your decision. The old Rick, if you will, and sending her away for doing that, he would thank her because he said that, if she didn't do it, I would have I would have done it, rather. That's nice grammar, Nathan. I would have done it. And, it's something that needed to be done. They were spreading disease, and they weren't going to make it. And it's something that needed to be done. Morgan makes the argument that because Rick spared Carol's life, that she was able to return and save them at Terminus. People can come back, is what Morgan said. Now, Rick and Morgan encounter a man at a farm overrun with walkers. Rick orders the man to drop his weapons, but, he says that he's only looking for his horse and flees. Rick tries to fire at the man, but Morgan intervenes, basically shoving Rick out of the way. Rick guesses that the man was a savior based on his weapon, but Morgan insists that they had no way of knowing who he was, which is fair. I completely agree with Morgan on this aspect. They don't know if this guy was with, the saviors, whether he was with the Hilltop, whether he was with another community that I think that we're going to be seeing very, very soon. Again, no spoilers, but I think it's going to happen very, very soon. Maybe not even in this season. Maybe at the start of next season. We don't know. You know what I mean? We have no idea at this point. But it's definitely possible. It really, really is. So they take off a couple walkers. Rick saves Morgan's life. Walker was about to bite Morgan, everything like that. Morgan confesses to Rick that he took a wolf captive during the attack on Alexandria. So we get to see Morgan finally, reveal to Rick that he did this. And that he kept a wolf captive and alive and everything like that. But he explains to him the significance of it. And I think at this point, Rick sort of understands. You know what I mean? I think we finally get to see Rick cracking from his hard shell and realizing that it doesn't always have to be death. You know what I mean? So he basically explains to Rick, yes, I took a wolf captive during an attack on Alexandria. He said that he stopped him, kept him in a cell. Rick basically sees, but Morgan explains that the wolf that he saved later saved Denise from walkers during the huge walker attack on Alexandria. He saved Denise from the walkers because Carol shot him in the chest a few times, and knowing that he was going to die anyway, he took down a bunch of walkers and told Denise to run. And because of that, because of the wolf actually starting to change his ways in life and not being a murderer and everything like that, he really started to change as a character near the end of his life. And he took down walkers. He took as many as he could and yelled at Denise to run. And Denise, because of that, was able to get to the infirmary. And because of that, was able to save Carl, who got shot in the eye by Ron. Irrelevant. But we get to see that, he says that basically, everything's a circle. I saved the wolf. The wolf saved Denise. Denise saved Carl. If I didn't take that wolf captive, if I would have just killed the wolf, Denise would most likely be still trapped in that house or dead, and Carl would not be alive. You know what I mean? She wouldn't have been there to save Carl's life. And that's just the, that's what's raw about it. You know what I mean? That really, really is. So, yeah. So that's what happens there. Morgan vows to basically find Carol on his own and tells Rick not to come looking if he doesn't return. Rick hands Morgan a gun, and they have a little bit of a comic relief, if you will, before they part ways. So Morgan's going off to save Carol, find Carol, bring her home, everything like that. Rick hands Morgan a gun. Morgan originally, shuns it, doesn't want the gun, and Rick just tells him to take it anyway. Not saying that you can go ahead, kill people, but it's for defense. You can use it on walkers and stuff like that. So he hands Morgan a gun and basically says, before Morgan turns and leaves, he basically says, Michonne did steal that protein bar, and that's obviously leading back to season 3 when we get to see Morgan in season 3, episode 12. When Michonne stole that protein bar, and basically, her reasoning for that was the Matt Sid welcome, which I thought was a hilarious moment back in the day, back in season 3. And I'm glad they're sort of, nodding to it back up here in season 6. I like that. You know what I mean? And they sort of both just laughed. Rick returns to Alexandria and learns that learns from Abraham, rather, that Michonne hasn't come back. Staring at the gate now, the two share their fears over getting close to someone again. You know what I mean? Not really wanting to get into a relationship, rather. But Abraham says, I think that I'm much more ready to tear the world a brand new asshole. And Rick smiles and nods, basically saying, I am too, and stuff like that. I like that they're getting a little closer with Rick and Abraham. Now, in the comics, Rick and Abraham were like a dynamic duo, you know what I mean? In the comics, Abraham was sort of Rick's Daryl, if you will. I thought it was really, really cool in the comics, and I want to see more of it here in the TV show. I'm sort of disappointed that it's, kind of took this long. You know what I mean? It's It could be a good sign, though. You know what I mean? It could be a good sign that they're going to finally start partnering up, and I hope that they do, because it was always an entertaining, relationship between them in the comic books, and the fact that they're finally starting to talk together now and stuff like that, and, Rick confiding in him and him confiding in Rick, I think is very, very cool. Maggie now asks Enid to cut her hair, and she basically explains, I have to keep going, so her hair's like completely short now. I think it looks really, really good on her, examining her new look and stuff like that. She says that I don't want anything getting in my way, and suddenly she doubles over in pain, and to Enid's shock, Maggie collapses to the floor screaming, basically holding her belly. In my opinion, signifying that, something is obviously wrong with her babies. Now, there was a joke on Talking Dead by Yvette Nicole Brown, which I thought was hilarious, where she just said, it wasn't the baby, it was just the pickles that she ate earlier. They were there for a long time and everything like that. I thought that was hilarious, but it's obviously her baby. You know what I mean? I think that we're going to get to see something like that, or something, leading to her having to go to the hilltop to get a doctor and everything like that to look at her, because obviously Denise is no longer a thing here in Alexandria. They don't have a doctor anymore, you know what I mean? Their only doctor is dead now. She got an arrow in the eye, and that's a pretty shitty thing, you know what I mean? So they're gonna have to go on the hilltop, which I think is why they're sort of going on a road mission next episode, and I'm very, very excited for it. So in the woods now, the ending scene here of this episode, in the woods, Daryl and Rosita creep up on the Savior's camp where Glenn and Michonne are being held and tied down. Glenn tries to scream a warning to Daryl through his gag, but Daryl is caught off guard by Dwight sneaking up behind him along with another person that is holding Rosita hostage there as well. So they were basically trying to, rescue Glenn and Michonne, and Glenn was trying to warn Daryl, that, get the hell out of here. There's somebody behind you. Dwight's behind you, and he has a gun to Daryl's head. And Daryl is caught off guard by Dwight sneaking up on him, and Dwight has a gun trained on Daryl's back, I guess, if you want to put it that way. And he says, "Hi, Daryl." Daryl lowers his crossbow, starts to turn around, and Dwight shoots him. Now, he shot him. There was blood that splattered all over the screen, and there's been, screams across the world, if you will, across the internet, that is very, very nervous for Daryl at this point, but I can assure you that he was only shot in the shoulder. Because if you actually go ahead and slow the scene down, if you will, in slow motion, I'm not going to do it for you, but you guys can do it yourself. There's a couple of videos out there on YouTube as well. You can look them up. Maybe I'll leave a link in the description to one. You guys can go check that out if you guys want to. But he's actually shot in the shoulder, and that happened. I mean, after he shot him, the screen went to black, and we heard Dwight saying, "You'll be all right," stuff like that. So, I mean, obviously, we're not going to sit here and trust Dwight with Daryl's life saying you'll be all right and everything like that. He could have very well shot him in the head. I just don't think that, Daryl would get an on-screen, or an off-screen death, rather, like that. I don't think it would happen. It's not going to happen. Daryl's definitely still alive, so don't worry about it, or anything like that. You know what I mean? He's totally fine. He's totally fine. Don't worry about it. And that's pretty much it for this episode, guys. That was it. That was Season 6, Episode 15, entitled East. I love this episode. It was very, very good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as well. If you guys agreed, with me, anything in this review, let me know in the comment section below. We'll have a little bit of a discussion. What we guys, what we thought of this episode and stuff like that, compare it to the comic books, compare and contrast. If you guys don't want to, see any spoilers, if you guys want to avoid them, don't go down in the comment section below, because I guarantee you there will be something down there that you guys most likely won't like to see. So, other than that, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Share the video around if you guys did, and like it up. Really does help me out a lot. And I will see you guys on the season finale prediction video this Thursday, March 31st, for Season 6, Episode 16, the season finale, entitled Last Day on Earth. Negan's arrived, everybody. I'll see you then. Bye.